The massive stage of America's Got Talent glowed under bright spotlights as a young woman slowly stepped into view. Her heart pounded so loudly in her chest that she could barely hear the audience clapping softly in anticipation. The giant AGT logo shimmered behind her, but all she could think about was not letting her nerves take over. She gripped the microphone tightly, her fingers trembling as she stood center stage. The judges, Simon Cowell, Sofia Vergara, Heidi Klum, and Howie Mandel, looked up with interest. Simon, known for his sharp honesty, leaned slightly forward with that familiar skeptical expression. When he spoke, his voice carried calm authority as he asked her name and what she planned to perform. She smiled shyly and said she would sing an original song that she wrote during one of the hardest times of her life. That answer caught everyone's attention. The audience went quiet. Singing an original song was always a risk, especially in front of Simon, but something in her tone made people believe she had a story worth hearing. The stage lights softened as a gentle piano melody began to play. For a few seconds, she just stood there with her eyes closed, breathing deeply, gathering the courage to begin. Then she sang her first note, soft, clear, and trembling with emotion. The hall fell into complete silence. Her voice carried a fragile power, like someone bearing their soul for the very first time. The lyrics spoke about heartbreak, losing everything, and trying to rebuild oneself. There was pain in every word, but also a spark of hope hidden beneath it. Even Simon's expression shifted slightly. The cold critic began to look genuinely curious. He leaned back, crossing his arms, but his eyes never left her. Heidi smiled softly, while Sofia placed a hand over her heart. As the song progressed, her confidence began to grow. She opened her eyes, looking out toward the audience, her voice now strong and soaring. The melody built gradually, moving from soft verses to a powerful chorus that filled the theater. The crowd could feel her emotion. Every high note carried her pain, her struggle, and her triumph. People in the audience began nodding along, and a few wiped tears from their eyes. Simon whispered something under his breath, clearly impressed. He had heard thousands of singers, but this one was different. Her voice wasn't just technically perfect, it was honest. It told a story that felt real. The lyrics described how she had once felt invisible, like no one could hear her cries, but then she found strength in her music. Each line grew stronger, and her presence on stage transformed from nervous to fearless. Her eyes shone under the spotlight as if she finally believed in herself. The second chorus erupted with passion. Her voice filled every corner of the hall, echoing beautifully. The audience started clapping in rhythm, encouraging her, and by the bridge, the entire crowd was emotionally locked into her performance. Simon nodded slowly, his usual stoic face breaking into a faint, approving smile. Heidi turned to him, whispering, "She's amazing," and he responded with a simple, quiet, "Yeah." As the song neared its end, she gave everything she had left in her heart. The final chorus was a mix of pain and victory, her voice trembling but unbreakable. When the music stopped, there was a brief moment of stillness, complete silence, as if no one dared breathe. Then suddenly, the entire auditorium exploded into applause. The audience stood up, cheering and shouting her name. Some waved their arms, others clapped until their hands hurt. The girl stood frozen, tears streaming down her face, overwhelmed by the reaction. She covered her mouth, unable to believe what was happening. Simon raised his hand for silence, and the noise quickly died down. He looked at her for a long moment before speaking, his voice surprisingly gentle. "That," he said, pausing briefly, "was absolutely beautiful. You just reminded everyone why this show exists. You didn't just sing, you told a story, and we all felt it." The other judges nodded in agreement. Heidi said her voice was pure magic, Sofia said it gave her goosebumps, and Howie called it a once-in-a-lifetime audition. The girl stood there crying, whispering thank you again and again. Simon smiled, a rare, genuine smile, and then glanced toward the golden buzzer in front of him. The audience began chanting, "Golden buzzer! Golden buzzer!" Simon looked back at the girl, who was now shaking, covering her face with her hands. Then, without saying another word, Simon pressed the golden buzzer. Instantly, the entire stage exploded with golden confetti raining down from above. The audience screamed in joy, and the girl fell to her knees, overwhelmed with emotion. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she laughed and cried at the same time. The other judges stood up, clapping and cheering for her. Simon got up from his seat and walked onto the stage, something he rarely did. He gave her a reassuring smile and said, "You deserve this." That song was incredible. The golden confetti sparkled under the bright lights as the girl stood up and hugged him, still crying. The music swelled again, and the cameras zoomed in on her tearful, smiling face. She looked out into the cheering crowd, realizing this was the moment that would change her life forever. The audience kept clapping as Simon returned to his seat, still smiling proudly. For the young woman, what started as a moment of fear became the beginning of a dream come true. She had stepped onto the AGT stage with trembling hands, but walked off as a star, with Simon Cowell himself believing in her talent. The golden confetti slowly settled on the floor, marking a night no one in the room would ever forget.